Now you can hear me. I knew something wasn't right. I forgot to turn myself on. Sorry to those of you online if you missed what I said. I was just promoting the class Thursday night at Third Eye Brewery. It's going to be a beer tasting. We'll taste 4 beers, have some hors d'oeuvres, have a tour to see how they make the beer, and just socialize. That's how we're going to end this year. So if you're online and you're not coming to that, this is the last class for the season. We will be having our board meeting in January. So if you have any ideas for us of classes you would like us to do, go to info@empoweryouamerica.org and give us your suggestions. If you know of a speaker for your suggestion, please put that in there also. We get a lot of good ideas sometimes and we're not able to do anything with them because we can't find anybody to speak to it. So that is helpful if you do that. I also want to recognize our board members that are here tonight. Barb Horowitz, Jay Gronke, who's in the back, Bill Roll, who is our treasurer, Ken Bowman, Karen Cartier, of course, she's going to be up here later speaking, and last but not least, our managing board member, Dan Reginald. Also, when I talked about sending in your ideas, if you're new here tonight, I want you to know that all of our classes are posted to our website within 24 hours of the class ending. So if there's any classes on there that you missed, or if you want to go look at our calendar to see what we have, anyone that you might want to watch, you can go back and watch it later. So anybody missing tonight, anybody who wanted to see Joe Blystone tonight, couldn't be here or couldn't be online, they can go back later and hear him as well as hearing Karen. I also want to thank you so much for the donations you've been giving this semester to help support what we do. And if you're online and you have any questions tonight for either one of our speakers, if you'll drop to the bottom of your screen to the Q&A button and put your question in there. Here in the studio, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Wait for one of us to bring the microphone to you. If you don't have a microphone, people online can't hear you and anyone behind you can't hear you either. And I think next we are ready for our giveaway. If Dan would come up, please.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So we've got a couple great drawings tonight. The first one is a book that just looks like a great, if you're cold, settle down and read it. It's Brett Baer's book, To Rescue the Republic, on Ulysses S. Grant. So get your tickets out. I'm going to ask Joe to draw us a ticket. And the number is 893. 893, right in the front row. Congratulations. Let's give her a round of applause. The giveaway we're going to give online tonight is the book Woke Inc. from Vivek Ramaswamy. We've got some of Vivek's signed books, great for Christmas gifts. If you're online, it's good to have so many people online tonight. Thanks for joining us. Funny story about Vivek. Over the weekend, I had a chance to listen to a podcast that I listen to every now and then, Megyn Kelly. I don't know if you remember her from Fox News. And she was on and she was talking about the word woke and how the word woke is now a racist term. And so on Monday morning, I emailed Vivek. We're kind of old friends. And I said, Vivek, you've really accomplished a lot now. Now the word woke is racist. And he said, yes, I've really come a long way. So, and isn't that the truth? This is a great book. It'll make a great gift. And whoever is the random number winner will be given this online, and we'll let you know at the end of the class about it. So how about a round of applause for our great executive director, Betty Overstreet. Thank you. Betty's done such a great job warming up the classes that I really haven't had a chance, I don't think, one class this entire semester to tell you really what the vision of Empower You is. It's a really simple version. I had a gentleman out here from Channel 12 the other afternoon. talking to me about a few things, and it really just, it was hard for him to understand when I told him that the vision of Empower You is to just help people become more empowered in your lives. Not too complicated. And the goal is just to teach people about things you don't know, because I love to learn new things. And it's always exciting to learn about a new candidate who's really making a big impact in Ohio. So that's the vision. And we're kind of nearing, this is the last class. For those of you who might want to have a little fun Thursday night, we're going to have our really super last class over at Third Eye Brewing. We'd love to have you join us. I think there's room for maybe 10 more people. It will be a lot of fun. And our next semester at Empower You, I wanted to let you know the first class will be, it'll be our 23rd semester, will be February 24th of next year. So we're really going to be working hard to find some great new classes. I wanted to bring you up to date on the critical race theory project just before we leave for the semester. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Sarah Fowler Arthur, who's written the bill to end critical race theory in Ohio. She told me that there was going to be a hearing the following Wednesday when her bill would be voted up or down. A lot of us have worked awful hard to see that bill passed. She said, I need your help. I need you to find me concrete black and white examples of critical race theory, because she said, as you know, all schools, the first thing they say about critical race theory is they say, we're not teaching it, right? So I polled a bunch of people around the state. I said, send me your concrete examples. And several of us worked through the weekend. And we published this book that has 38 concrete black and white examples of critical race theory in Ohio throughout the entire state. And that book is going to be released sometime in the next couple weeks to people. And my guess is you might see an Empower You class about it. That'll be interesting. I wanted to tell you about the most egregious case I found, really. I'll tell you two things. It's a sneak. The most egregious school in the state of Ohio that I found so far of practicing critical race theory is the King's school system. I've got so many cases of so many black and white bad things that our kids have no purpose learning that it's shocking to me. And about 4 or 5 of them are in that book. But one particular case, a really bad case, has come up, and it involves the Cincinnati Public Schools. So there's something called an opt-out form that a lot of groups around Ohio have been telling parents to fill out. And they've been saying, fill out this form, and you're allowed to opt your kid out of being taught divisive subjects like race and critical race theory subjects. And you send it to your administrators, and they've got to follow your wishes and not teach your kids critical race theory, certain types of sexual education. You've probably all heard this buzz term, social emotional learning. So a parent in Cincinnati Public Schools, I believe it was Pleasantville Elementary, I hope I've got that right. I'll have to check that. Filled out the form. He did a great job. He filled out everything exactly right as far as I could tell. Sent it to Cincinnati Public Schools. Their lawyer came back to him and contacted him and said, you are not authorized to opt your child out of anything at Cincinnati Public Schools. I just happened to be having a meeting with the chairman of the Senate Education Committee, a guy by the name of Andrew Brenner. He told me that absolutely is not correct. And as long as it's not the 4 subjects, you can opt your kid out of anything that is divisive oriented curriculum. So it's an important case. And I imagine we're hopeful that we'll be able to find somebody to get that parent sound footing in what they're trying to do, which is to protect their kid. Other than that, I am just happy to have the chance to meet Joe Blystone earlier, and we appreciate him driving here tonight when it's so dark. Joe is a true native, born in East Liverpool, Ohio. He's happily married to Jane, who's with him in the back. Jane, raise your hand. Glad to have you here. Welcome. And they've been blessed with 3 children. Joe has 1 son and Jane has 2 sons. They brought their families together in 2010. Family, faith, and freedom have always been foundational to the Blystone family. Joe founded the Blystone Farm in 2004 and his nonprofit Blystone Agricultural Community in 2019. For more than a decade, he's dedicated his time to serving the community and helping young adults and children learn the importance of their work and living a happy and healthy lifestyle. The Blystones care deeply about their community and provide many agricultural classes to kids and their parents. Joe and Jane are freedom-loving parents who are encouraging many in value and practice their God-given freedom. And so get your questions ready online too. And at some point, hopefully Joe will have some time to answer some of your questions. We're really glad to welcome Joe Blystone. We're glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are we on? All right. Well, thank you for having me out here this evening. I sure do appreciate it. I always look forward to meeting new faces, shaking hands, and having the opportunity just to plant the seed. You know, I'm a farmer. I raise cattle, cow-calf operation to feedlot. And we've been blessed over many years doing what we do on the farm. You know, back in early 2000s, I used to be a commercial sheep producer. We were processing about 800 to 1,000 lambs annually on the farm. In 2004, I built a packing house on the farm. I also, off the farm, was running an automotive equipment company. 2008, we all know the economy went south, and I decided this was the best opportunity to start working on the farm full time. I closed down my automotive equipment business because you know, the car dealerships were doing a little bit of nothing. And we built the first 16 by 16 room on a custom packing house. And we started providing beef, pork, chicken to the locals. Our business grew fast and furious. And the little shop that we started out with 3 employees, today it's grown into a bigger retail butcher shop, a full-blown bakery, a restaurant, a tap room, and an event center on this 83-acre farm. Today, we employ a little over 70 people on that farm. So, you know, it's truly, you know, it's the American dream. I always say, and I always teach young people, you just have to have a little grit and determination, reach out, grab that opportunity, and run with it. You know, we live in the greatest country in the world with the most opportunity. And this is what we should be teaching our young people, that the opportunity's there, you just have to grab a hold of it and run with it. But we don't. We're teaching our young people that they can sit at home and play video games, and they can wait for the government check to show up in the mailbox. Well, that has to change. You know, our public school systems, you know, they've become indoctrination tanks. We don't even teach anymore. We need to get back to what school was supposed to be, educating, and we need to get back to the basics: reading, writing, arithmetic, science, American history, civics. But we don't teach a lot of these things anymore. Matter of fact, we're canceling out history. So, you know, we're bound to repeat it. And we don't teach our young people, what that flag means. And that's first and foremost. They should be saying the Pledge of Allegiance in our public schools. And we should be saying the Lord's Prayer. Even if, I say that in a generic term because, you know, people, they have different religions, but why can't we just say the Lord's Prayer to whatever God that you pray to? I think that would be good for our children. It would build a foundation. You know, the family is under attack these days. We have so many single parents, and it's so expensive to live these days that the single parent is working so hard, so they don't have time to parent. And then they send their children to school and they expect the school to parent their children. So I believe that's why we're in the predicament we're in today. And and they're trying to indoctrinate our children, whether it's in from elementary to high school, or then they go into college, and by gosh, they're really getting indoctrinated in these universities. So the system is just not working anymore. Not for freedom, not for what this country was built on: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There's a brush fire every day, and there's many brush fires. We don't even know which road to go down, which one's taller, which one we need to put out. But we've seen the demise of our country right blatantly in front of our face in the past 16 months or so. I'm all about freedom, and I'm all about fighting for our freedoms. We're in the predicament we're in because we don't like to get involved. We don't get involved in politics. We sit on the sideline. We go vote. We vote for the lesser of the two evils, and then we hope there's a different outcome. Well, here we are. Welcome communism. Show me your papers. It's surprising where we have gotten in such a short time. And if we don't get out in front of this, it's going to get a lot worse, folks. And that scares me to death. I want the children that, whether it's my children or my grandchildren, and I don't have no grandchildren yet, but I pray that someday I do. But I want them to be raised in the country that I grew up in, having the same opportunities that I have. And if we're not willing to fight for that, they're not going to have that. So I think this great state, this great country is worth fighting for, to the death if need be. That's how committed I am to this. Sometimes there needs to be a revolution, and I surely hope that we can fix this at the ballot box, because the alternative will not be good. But they try to cancel out our voices, and they're sure as heck trying to cancel out our votes. So it's time to get involved. It's time to run for these elected positions and take our state and our country back. Last year the pandemic came down the pike, and it's not our first pandemic. It's not going to be our last pandemic. But what was the narrative that was being pushed? And the narrative was, my gosh, there's going to be people dying in the streets. Did that ever happen? Absolutely not. Is the virus real? Yes. But when in history has the CDC ever came out and said, doctors, you cannot prescribe an off-label drug? When in history? It's never happened in history. They could not prescribe hydroxychloroquine. They could not prescribe ivermectin, proven drugs. Hydroxychloroquine's been around for 50, 60 years. It's used in third world countries. It's sold over the counter. That's how safe it is. But they told them you cannot use that. That's when I knew this is not about a virus. This is about a presidential election. That's what this is about. And they were going to do everything they could to get that guy out of Washington. And they did. I believe they stole the election. I believe President Trump is still my president. I'm just going to tell you right now, it was never in on my bucket list to get in politics. No right-minded person would want to get into the mess I'm in. Why would you want them to tear your life apart, push their narrative, tear your business apart, threaten your family, everything that's going on right now? I have jumped into the biggest hornet's nest that I could find. and they're coming after me with everything they got. We're going up against the machine. The machine has been fine-tuned and oiled for decades. It's not just this administration. It's been built not for people like me, people that they groom for these positions. People say, Joe, how do you think you can be successful? What can you bring to the table? You don't have name recognition. You don't have millions of dollars. You don't have experience. How do you think you can win and be successful? And I always say, we hire the same folks year after year, decade after decade. They usually have MBA degrees. They're a lot of times lawyers. They have they're great at giving speeches. They're suit and tie guys, and they tell us what we want to hear, and we hire them. And look at the mess we're in today. So I don't think we need to hire any more politicians, folks. We need to hire people who have common sense. We need to hire business people who knows how to balance a checkbook. We need to hire somebody that's willing to go to Columbus or willing to go to Washington and does what's right, what's godly, and what's righteous. Not what's popular and not what puts money into their pocket. But that's how the political system is built, and it needs to change. And it's going to take an outsider to break the mold. And that's why I'm here. I'm not looking for a job. I got a job. I like feeding cows. So I'm not looking to go down in Columbus or Washington, and this is my career. I'm not looking for a career. I'm looking to show that a blue collar working farmer can walk off his farm, go to the highest seat in this state, and bring the power back to the people where it's been stolen from. And there's many things we need to fix. One big problem right now, we can't stand up for people's individual health. Folks, it should be your choice if you get a vaccine. It should be your choice if you wear a mask. Your choice. Nobody should be telling you, not your employer, not the government, not the school, nobody. It should be your choice, period. But it's not. Many people contact me and daily. Joe, can you come? We're protesting out in front of our factory of 500 people. They're telling us we have to have this vaccine by, November 1st or January 1st or whatever. And these people, they're desperate because they don't want to put an unapproved drug into their body. But the media is out there pushing. It's approved. No, it's not. It's not approved. It's approved for clinical trial. It's going to be years before it gets through the process of vigorous testing. But by gosh, they say, well, it's approved. It's approved for emergency use is what it's approved for. So these are the things that I'm going to tell you, I say a lot of prayers these days. I hope that, God has a plan, obviously. He always has a plan, and he won't put us under anything that he doesn't think we can endure. But by gosh, sometimes I just feel like, God, can you just, make it, a little better day today? Does it have to be so bad day after day? But he has a plan here. So I'm just a servant here. I'm going down this path, and I'm speaking the truth, and he'll decide whether I'm in that seat. And we don't know what the plan is. Maybe he just wants me to be a big noisy cuss in politics. Well, I can do that too. But I'm gonna fight for the people because the people need a voice. You know, Governor DeSantis down there in Florida, he's fighting for his people. He's loud. He's holding the gate against Washington, and that's what we need to do. We're a sovereign state in Ohio. We don't have to follow the laws set forth by Washington. We can invoke our 10th Amendment. We just need somebody in that seat that has a backbone, that's willing to stand up and say, Washington, you just keep that nonsense over there. You're not bringing it into this great state. You know, there's a bill up in Columbus that is kind of floating around at the moment, and it needs passed. It's called the backpack bill. What the backpack bill is, it sets up a savings account for your child in the local public school system. If your child is in the public school system, the money's there. If you decide, you know what, you're not doing my child any good, so I'm moving my child over here to Christian school or public school or what have you, and that money, the public money, follows your child. What that in turn does, it holds the public school system accountable. And if they keep indoctrinating your children, you're pulling your children out. And if enough people pull their children out, that business will die. That pulls all the power away from the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions have way too much power, and nobody's holding them accountable. This is a tool, if we can get it passed in Columbus, that will hold them accountable, and we need to hold them accountable. This CRT 1619 project, let's draw a line right down the center of our children, and let's actually just teach them to hate each other. Nobody was born being a racist. That is taught. It takes one adult to start pushing these children this way and pushing them over this way, and building that that fundamental racist mentality. And this has no place in our school systems. And then the sex ed nonsense that's going on in some of our schools. Transgenders. You know, folks, there's two genders. I'm a farmer. There's cows and there's bulls. That's it. No more, no less. And that's what we need to be teaching our children. So, you know, I'm all about just, you know, let's just let's educate our children. Yeah. But you know, let's get back to the fundamentals. Let's teach our children. Let's get skilled trades back into our school systems. Let's teach our children, you know, you don't have to go to college to be successful. You don't have to go to college to be a positive part of community. You can go into skilled trades and you can get a good job. A lot of times you can get a job that pays more than a 4-year degree, and they'll pay you to learn that skill. So we need to get back to this. You know, there's a lot of blue collar working jobs out there that they can't even, we don't even have enough people to fill. And we need to quit paying people to sit at home. It's a travesty what happened last year. DeWine picked winners and he picked losers. Many mom and pop shops he deemed unessential. And then he propped up the big corporations. The big corporation had record profits last year. And many mom and pop shops, they'll never open again. It was a terrible thing what he did. And again, he did something against our Constitution. Many times last year, they just scooped up that Constitution and they threw it right out the back door. You know, it's the law of the land, period. And if you go against the law of the land, I have no use for you. And we need somebody fighting for the people. I hope nobody in this room had to deal with this situation, but then, you know, he closed down the hospitals. Elective surgeries, You couldn't get elective surgery, and then he shut down the nursing homes. He shut down the nursing homes, and you couldn't go see your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa. You couldn't even go see them when they were on their deathbed. You couldn't hold their hand. Many people ask the Lord God to come into their heart in their very last moments. Some of these people didn't have that opportunity to have that moment with their pastor, their preacher, their priest in their last moment. What DeWine did last year, he should be in jail for. This is why I'm doing this, folks. I can't take this anymore. I'm going to be on the good side of history here. I'm not going to be on the opposite side. And you will never find a fighter like me, ever. Over there in Washington, they're trying to pass the H.R. 1 bill. The H.R. 1 bill is a bill that would federalize our election system. According to that bill, every single illegal that walks across our border down there in Texas and signs up for assistance would automatically be registered to vote. That whole sentence makes no sense. Walk across the border, sign up for assistance, be registered to vote. This is that leftist ideology that it is run amok. These people are dangerous to everything this country was built on. The most powerful man in the country today? Joe Manchin. That guy holds the pen to getting rid of the filibuster in the Senate. That guy is the decider whether we stay a free country or we become communist China. One man. If that doesn't scare you to death, I don't know what does, because one man holds that key. So I always say prayers for Joe Manchin, that God has a heavy hand on him, keeping him safe. I'm surprised he hasn't been taken out yet. But one man shouldn't have that kind of power, but he does. We have a problem with our election system here in Ohio. Last year, do you remember last year when DeWine came out and he said, folks, you can't be outside after 10 o'clock. You need to be in bed. You remember that? I do, like it was yesterday. That very next night, I was with about 100 people. I was in Cedarville, Ohio. I was I was in the front of DeWine's house on a backcountry road. And we made a lot of noise until about midnight. But I'm not going to be told when to go to bed. So I started having these Liberty events on my farm. I got this big, nice event center. And when they said you couldn't assemble, well, by gosh, we had hundreds of people on our farm assembling. And we needed that. We needed to refuel. We needed to feel like this is America. We want to just, like the olden days, kids were running around the farm, having a good time. We didn't have any face diapers on. And people came out, they got recharged, and they was ready for whatever came down the pike. I got to meet a gentleman, and I think he actually came here one evening, Dr. Douglas Frank. Dr. Douglas Frank is he came out to my farm during one of those, and he's become a very good friend of mine. And after the election there in November, he did the modeling of the numbers, and he proved that there is a lot of fraud in this state, and Trump didn't win by just 8 points. He won more like 16 points. So Dr. Frank has gotten known by the Lindell team, Lindell, General Flynn, and President Trump, and they've been auditing different districts all over the country. Places where the Secretary of State or the attorney generals have opened up their doors and allowed them to come in and do these audits. You know, we kind of asked to do that here in Ohio, but for some reason, our Secretary of State and our Attorney General will not open up the door to transparency. That's a problem, folks. We have to get our election system fixed. And then Secretary of State LaRose, he does not respect our constitutional rights. He closed down primary in-person voting last year. And he has no authority to do that, but he did it. Then they sent out mail-in ballots willy-nilly to many people all over this state. And you didn't even have to ask for one. It just showed up. Many folks got, you know, not just one, but more than one. And again, the fraud was out there, but yet, again, our Secretary of State doesn't want to hear it. He's going around politicking because he wants you to hire him again. He keeps on saying that November was the most participated election, most secure election, and the machines are not hooked up to the internet. Well, folks, those machines are not hooked up to the internet like this phone right here is not hooked up to the internet. So we don't want to hear it. We want transparency. We want a full audit in this state. We want to show that there is fraud in this state, and we want to make sure that we have a fair and honest election. So just remember, just like DeWine needs fired, LaRose needs fired too. We can't have these people that are not going to open up the books, be transparent, and make sure that the system works for the people. You know, for some reason, these people, they forget that we put them in these positions. And they're supposed to be representatives for us. Our representatives are supposed to carry our voice to Columbus. But DeWine closed the door on every single one of our representatives last year. He ruled by a tyrant hand, and it needs to stop. Here in this state, the default program for the Republican Party, they always say, you know, I'm running on a pro-life platform. And I always thought, what exactly do they mean by that? What does pro-life mean to the Republican Party? Well, I'll tell you what it means to a lot of these Republicans. Pro-life to them is 23,000 plus unborn children are being terminated in this state every year. That's what pro-life means in this state. I was raised a Baptist kid, so I can't be part of that. I won't be part of that. Abortion needs to end, period, in this state. With that being said, there's a human aspect of that. That young gal that's even thinking about having an abortion is probably in a deep, dark place. She probably doesn't have a friend to lean on. She probably doesn't have family to lean on. She probably thinks this is the only option. Well, that's where we come into. We put our arms around her and we just tell her, we got you. We'll help you through this. And at the end of the day, if you don't want that beautiful little baby, it's okay. We're not going to make you feel bad. Because we know there'll be 10,000 great parents lined up at the door willing to take that little beautiful baby. We need to defund abortion and we need to fund adoption. There's a lot of lost children in the system, and they just want an opportunity. They want the right to have a loving family that'll build that foundation. And folks, we're already spending the money. So I'm a farmer, and I'm always about let's fix the issue at the root cause. Let's spend the money down here. Let's get these lost children families that will care for them and build that foundation. Because if we don't, we're already spending the money up here when these children don't have that foundation. They're running around the streets, they're burning, they're looting, they're tearing up the cities. And now we're spending the money in the judicial system, and we're spending the money in the prison system. So it's just common sense. Common sense is not common anymore. So let's just kind of turn it around and try to fix these issues down here, because it's just the right thing to do. It's the godly thing to do. So we have a spending problem also in this state. We have 11.5 million people. We got about an $80 billion budget, but at the end of the day, we spend just about twice that. I think that's some of that Common Core fuzzy math they use. And then we got many people that, whether they're on welfare, generational welfare. We got people teaching that to their children. That needs to stop. If you're an able-bodied person, you should be working in this state, period. If you're an able-bodied person and you're not working, we're not gonna take care of you. We're not gonna send you money so you can sit at home. That needs to stop. But the politicians won't make that stop because they don't want to rock the boat. I'll rock the boat, folks, because it's the right thing to do. We can give these people some training, offer them some good training and skill set, and then we kind of boot them to the curb and say, you're on your own now. It's time for you to be responsible. It's time for you to be independent. And we need to quit being so sensitive. You know, about 10, 12 years ago, they came down the pike and they said, well, Johnny, if you come in first, you get a trophy. Well, Johnny, if you come in 35th, you still get a trophy. Well, that's wrong. We should be calling Johnny that comes in 35th a loser. Maybe if we call him a loser today, that'll give him some incentive. He'll work a little harder to be a winner tomorrow. But if we give him the same thing as Johnny that came in first, he'll never, ever change what he's doing in life. So let's incentivize people.
Hey, Joe, before we run out of time, can we take a few questions?
Absolutely.
I know people would like to ask you a few questions. Who has a question for Joe Blystone?
Right here.
Let me get a microphone to you, sir.
My name is Johnny Van Stein. Why wouldn't you try to run in the Republican primary?
I am.
Oh, I thought you were in the Constitution Party.
No, there's no pathway to win without using the Republican transportation. We have to get DeWine out in the primary on May 3rd. So I'm running on the Republican platform.
Okay.
Yes,
I
sir.
thought you were on the Constitution Party.
No.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Here's a question, right?
My name is Georgia. You say that you had a car dealership, and I know Jim Renaisi. You have something in common with Jim Renaisi. He had a car dealership. Have you ever thought of getting together with him? Because right now everybody is mostly interested in getting DeWine out.
Yes, actually, no, I never owned a car dealership. I was in the automotive equipment business. I sold and installed automotive equipment, 2 car dealerships. Here's my problem. Myself and Jim Renaisi will never align. If you go to the Heritage Foundation and you actually look at his voting record, he is not a conservative and he's not a Republican. He voted for transgender rights. He doesn't mind if a 40-year-old man goes into the bathroom with your 10-year-old daughter. That's ungodly to me, and I won't have anything to do with that. He also voted for stricter background checks, and also he voted to legalize 1.5 million immigrants into this country. So I will not get on board with anybody like Jim Renacci. He's another DeWine 2.0.
Here's another question right here.
Hi, I'm Monique. I am interested in knowing what your thoughts are on PUCO's Power Forward Ohio program.
What program?
Power Forward Ohio,
Power Forward Ohio.
Utilities Commission of Ohio.
I don't know it's the organization. I mean, I know
PUCO.
PUCO.
Right, Power Forward Ohio.
Yes.
It's a program about smart cities, electric vehicles, smart meters, data collection, data collection, data collection.
Well, I'm definitely against data collection. I am I'm anti-government. We need government out of our business. We need less government. Government is in our businesses. They're in our living rooms. And my gosh, they're trying to control our lives. And it used to be they tried to hide that before, but it's blatantly out in front of our face now. And it needs to stop. These politicians need to realize that they're working for us. We're not working for them.
Joe, we have a question online in the back.
The first question we have is, what is your background that makes you believe that you can oversee the 6th largest economy in the U.S.?
So basically, Ohio's a business. It has a few more departments than what my farm has, but basically, whether it's a CEO, president, owner, I'm good at putting the teams together to carry out the management of a business. I've been successful in business. I employ a little over 70 people. So I know how to run a business and I know how to balance a checkbook. Again, we hire politicians. They don't know, they have no clue how to balance a checkbook. And then they mismanage our money, just like DeWine has done. Over $3 billion paid out in unemployment fraudulent claims, and it's still not fixed. Do you think we'll get that money back? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, they mismanage our money and they're going to come back to us and say, you know what, we need more of your tax dollars.
Do we have one more question online?
And one more question, who is on your list for lieutenant governor?
Right now, we're vetting some folks. I'm not at liberty to put their names out there yet. We hope here in the next few weeks that we have somebody nailed down, but right now we're having some conversations with some very good candidates that would make a great lieutenant governor.
Let's thank Joe Blystone for coming and visiting with us tonight. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Enjoyed meeting you. And have a safe trip back home to the ranch. And happy Thanksgiving to you all. We're thrilled to have Karen Cartier, one of our board members, talk. She's an avid reader, writer, learner, wife, and mother of 2. By the way, her daughter Leanne is kind of learning how to be an associate producer in the back. Let's give her a round of applause too back there. Karen has worked in IT as a technical writer for over 30 years and is currently working full-time in IT. Outside of her paying job, she serves as an officer in the Toastmasters International, as well as a volunteer community educator for the Alzheimer's Association, and along with helping us at Empower You. Karen, welcome.
Thank you, Dan. I have some information to share that I hope will be entertaining and engaging and enlightening. There are things that I've learned not too long ago. I think the mic sounds good, Jay. Now, I don't know about you all, but I tend to keep things around, certain things, for a long time. I learned from my parents to take care of what I have and keep it for a while. Things like okay. There we go. My husband, we've been married for 28 years. I think that deserves some. My car celebrated its 30th anniversary this year. I think that's pretty entertaining. My vacuum cleaner, I bought my vacuum cleaner before I was married, still running. My toaster, okay. The toaster that we use every day to make our toast was a wedding gift for my parents. My parents were married in 1959. My husband fixed it. It works great. I love it. And it looks just like that. And our washer and dryer, my mother thought that her washing machine was worn out. My husband said, let's give it a try. He fixed some things on it. And that was, I think, 12 or 15 years ago, and we're still using it. Several things I'd like to go over tonight, including cars, just a few specific things, appliances, and construction materials. So let's start out with cars. And some things I've learned about recently have to do with a bulletin on wiring relative to Hyundai, Honda, and Toyota regarding soy-covered wiring being used in these newer cars. Thought to be less expensive for the car manufacturers since it used soy instead of oil, and it's thought to be better for the environment. It may be less expensive for the car manufacturers, and I'm sure they're happy about that, but better for the environment, we need to think about that a little bit. Soy anything can be considered food for little animals, squirrels, mice, rats, etc. They'll find food when they're hungry. And if your vehicle's made with soy-based wiring, those wires are right at their level for their chewing pleasure. Some solutions for this that I've learned about include, there was a soy wiring factory bulletin on cars manufactured between 2012 and 2016 that were impacted according to the WWLP News Channel 22. And that's also on John Mattery's WCPO Channel 9. He provided a report on soy-based wiring not too long ago. And some products that were recommended on John Mattery's to discourage rodents from being attracted to your car's wiring include, it's a rodent repellent, fresh cab botanical rodent repellent, and there's a Honda tape rodent. This is a sample of what it looks like. And it's kind of humorous because it's got pictures of little mice on there with little X's on there, which I thought was funny. Sorry. I have a funny sense of humor. I would pass this around, but I don't want to tempt anyone to lick it to see if it's really hot. And what they did was they made a tape and they put capsaicin in it, the heat that's in garlic, which, if you heard me talk before, I love garlic, but, I wondered too, you know, depending on where the mice are, what part of the country or what part of the world they're in, if they are used to having hot food, I wonder if they would find this an incentive. I don't know. That crossed my mind. Generally, I mean, these are two products that were recommended. There's something to think about. Most importantly, just be aware of it if you have a newer car, and do whatever you can to make it harder for the mice to get around your car. If you can keep them in a garage, keep it in the garage, keep it in the garage. I've tried mothballs around my cars, but I don't think that really helps a whole lot. Just be aware of it and don't make it any easier. It's another item about cars, newer cars in particular. The newer cars have sensors all over, and there are even sensors around the valve stems and the tires. So if you go to a car dealership and you have your tires changed and rotated, or you have anything done with your tires, if the mechanic forgets to put the little cap back on there, it doesn't sound like it's a very big deal, but actually it can be. If you have your, if you don't have your valve stem caps replaced and you drive off, it could result in some expensive need to replace the tires and the sensors. If any grit or grime gets on those little sensors on the valve stems, it can really be an expensive thing to replace. On another car related note, cars have not been made to be worked on by consumer for quite a while. There are so many computers throughout newer cars that they require being hooked up to a computer to diagnose. There are multiple body control modules through which most of the circuitry goes through. And there are many sensors throughout a newer car. I've already mentioned that. Other things about cars, including electric cars. Now, there's a lot of good things about electric cars. Yeah, they're clean and they do run quietly and they use no gasoline. Those are all good things. They're equipped with lithium batteries, so there's less fossil fuel usage on the planet. That's a good thing. And there are charging stations more and more available all over, and that's a good thing. Just ask yourself some questions along the way as well. What happens to the batteries when they have to be replaced? And consider the source of lithium for those batteries. Chile also has by far the largest reserves of lithium, ahead of China, Argentina, and Australia. And according to the New York Stock Exchange, Sociedad Química y Minera is the largest producer of lithium in the world and is based in Chile. Now, what happens after a natural disaster and your car battery is drained? Gasoline can be trucked in various ways, but how will batteries be able to be recharged? And I'm thinking about this. It's just something to think about. Think about the power grid system and how that would work. Now, if an electric car catches fire, it's very dangerous to put out that fire. It's dangerous to the firefighters and the car owner. An NBC News recently reported electric vehicle battery fires can take upwards of 25 gallons of water to be fully extinguished. By comparison, a typical car fire involving an internal combustion engine can be put out with around 300 gallons of water. That's from one report. I'm sure that varies. That's what the report said. It sounds like an awful lot of water, but they are very difficult to put out. There's a picture of a Tesla, and this was in the news recently. A Tesla had caught fire and was very difficult to put out. And I've read a number of articles. It's dangerous to firefighters. They have had to learn how to put out electric car fires, spray the water underneath and not over the top. And there are all kinds of special things that they've had to learn. And it's actually very dangerous for the firefighters. Just so you're aware, just something to think about. Oops, went too far. Here we go. Moving right along to appliances. Now here's the fun topic. Okay. Some of you might still have your old mechanical washer and dryer and appliances and things like that. If you have digital, I don't know what to tell you about that because I I don't know. I think you have to have those work done by somebody. But if you have a model of a washing machine or a clothes dryer, there are options for having them fixed. And I have a very good video that describes, it's WCPO, John Mattery's video that was aired, that's very good and describes.
If one of your home appliances goes out these days, finding a replacement is not easy. Almost all appliances right now are in short supply, but consumer reporter John Mattery shows what many homeowners are now doing instead, so you don't waste your money.
Is your fridge on the fritz? Washer not washing? Rather than try to buy a new one in this crazy market, you could save a lot of money fixing your old one. Mark Lancaster and his wife love their 40-plus-year-old Kenmore washer.
We think it's from 1976.
When it recently stopped agitating, they started looking for a new one for their Fort Thomas home. But Mark quickly got agitated because prices were high and shortages meant many models on back order.
Those are very difficult to come by, as you've noted in your segments.
So he Googled the problem and found this little $7 plastic connector was the reason it failed. A couple of YouTube videos later.
And lo and behold, it's back and totally repaired.
Of course, a lot of us don't want to open up our own washing machine, and that's why repair shops are doing record business this year.
Diagnostic fee would only be $35.
Days Appliances on Beachmont Avenue has doubled in size the past 2 years. Chief repair technician Pat Heron says a $200 repair on an older fridge or washer is usually well worth it.
Maybe using a little bit more water, but your new washer will not even go 8 or 9 years.
He says today's sleek new appliances use so many electronics and plastics that they won't last like Mom's old Maytag.
You have older appliances, hold on to them, because they will run forever.
If you really want a new appliance, make sure it is in a local warehouse and not on back order, or you could be waiting 6 months or longer. So always don't waste your money. I'm John Mattery, WCPO 9 News.
I can see.
Thank you. Along those lines, I have a couple of examples. Oh, the
amount of violence this year. Marquisha Jones Woods is trying to drown out the distractions with dance.
Extremely handy.
You've never been a
doing
dancer?
research if
Never.
you have the
I've
model
never
of your
danced.
washing machine.
I actually
looking for a
started
particular
the
part
dance
after
program
you've done your research
because
on
I was trying to give the
YouTube,
kids in my
YouTube is
community
great.
something positive to do to
You can
keep them
use
off the
this
street.
website
Did you practice
to
what
help
you
you find the
practice?
parts that you need and help you
You
find
did?
information.
Use your words,
that's
not your head.
really valuable. We've had a mechanical dryer, for example, that stopped getting warm enough to dry our clothes. It was pretty bad. We were really in a jam. And after researching on the internet, we learned that it was the heater coil. We found a video showing how to replace the heater coil. We ordered a new one for that model washing machine, or dryer, I'm sorry, and a friend learned from YouTube how to take apart the dryer, which is actually pretty basic stuff. And we moved the old coil and installed the new one. That solved the problem, and the dryer heats up nicely afterwards. Now, another example, my oldest daughter's dryer had the belt break. Again, we researched on the internet, ordered a new one for that model to replace it. She replaced the belt herself, following the steps from YouTube. The total cost was about $23 for the belt kit. It's worth trying at least before you replace the whole appliance. Now, as far as a kitchen hand mixer, here's another good example. We bought a KitchenAid hand mixer, I don't know, some number of years ago. We had it when the girls were little. And over the years of mixing cake batter, et cetera, I noticed one and then another of the speeds stopped working, the little thumb speeds at the top of the handle. I really liked this mixer. I kept using it anyway, but the problem persisted. And somehow I took a look at it. Someone I know took a look at it, took it apart, and he had to locate some tiny screws and gently remove the front housing. And that's what the first picture shows, the little caps you have to remove. And then the second picture in the center shows the screws that are removed. And the third picture shows the top of it being taken off. Its top part is on the right and the bottom part's on the left, where you see the electric plug coming out. And then the first picture here, you see at the top, you see the little fan. That's what sucks in air as you're using your hand mixer. And if you have dusty cake batter, that sucks in the dust from the cake mix. The middle picture, if you look in the center, and I should have had a laser pointer, but the little slide thing in the center is actually a tiny circuit board. And if you remove that, that's what you see on the far right. That's the little circuit board. And that is what gets all gunked up and stops the speed selection from working. You can just use compressed air and blow that off. You can use a little bit of light sandpaper and clean underneath the top of that. And put that all back in, put the screws back in, put it back together again, and you've still got your nice hand mixer that you can use and it works just fine. You know, it's either that or go out and buy a new one and throw your old one in the landfill. There are other options, and it's worth trying before you throw it out. It is intimidating, but it can be done. You know, construction materials, and in particular, I'm looking at I-beams in homes and other buildings. And this has been in the news for years. This is really nothing new. But the newer construction materials are proven to be a danger to firefighters if they have to go into the home to rescue someone. And they're also a danger to the homeowners during a fire, just so you're aware of it. There was an article on firehouse.com written by Joseph T. Berry in 2008, and he served for 31 years with the New York City Fire Department. And I'd like to read a few excerpts of an article I found for you. Throughout the United States, engineered wooden I-beam joists are becoming more prevalent in residential construction for several reasons. They can be more cost-effective than dimensional lumber. There are longer lengths. They can span longer distances without vertical supports. Spacing can be wider in the center, thus reducing material. They are lighter and easier to handle, and they are straighter with no crowning. And that's all fine for the builder and for the homeowner who can take pride in reduced lumber consumption and the ecological friendly nature of engineered wood. But what about the life safety of firefighters? How will the lightweight structural support beams hold up when exposed to heat and flame? Not too many years ago, there was a news item about comparing natural wood I-beams with engineered lumber I-beams, and they set them both on fire, and they demonstrated live on the news how long it took for one to burn versus the other one, and it was pretty astounding. The engineered lumber burned much faster. Joseph Berry says, in my 31 plus years in the fire service, I never once was concerned about the structural integrity of a floor I was operating on, whether advancing a hose line into an inferno or conducting an initial primary search under a heavy smoke condition. For every residential floor was comprised of solid dimensional lumber. The structural stability of such solid mass floor enables firefighters to accomplish all phases of structural firefighting: primary, secondary, and tertiary searches, occupant rescue and removal, fire suppression, defining fire travel and extension, overhauling and salvage, and protection from secondary fire damage. Time and time again, the same routine interior attack strategy and tactics were implemented for occupied residential occupancies. This planned and coordinated attack could vary depending upon the type of occupancy and the severity of the fire. This was all with traditional older homes. Time's not on our side. A floor system constructed with the engineered products can collapse within minutes after exposure. Lightweight construction presents two major concerns: very fast moving, very hot fires, especially when vinyl exterior siding is involved, and the rapid collapse of the floor and roof when fire and/or heat impinges on the trusses and wooden I-beam joists. Today, the fire service is faced with a new life-threatening dilemma: the collapse potential and structural stability of engineered structural elements when exposed to heat and fire. In 4 recent fires in 4 states, the lives of 5 firefighters were lost in residential fires due to structural floor collapse. The common thread in these incidents was the fire location, which originated in the basement area. Lightweight residential construction type of floor system, which comprised of wooden I-beams used as floor joists and open web gang plate floor trusses. There was no fire-rated thermal barrier. And this is a lot of this information is from the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Firefighters who operate on floors above fire-damaged engineered I-joists may fall through the weakened floor and become trapped in the fire below. The scenario is similar to walking on thin ice. The days of charging into a burning building have to be curtailed. A thorough 360-degree size-up must be performed before committing an attack. So it's made firefighting a lot more complicated than it ever was before, because firefighters have to think about what they're going into. A pre-plan of all new and existing structures, whether residential and/or commercial, is needed. This pre-plan must include an operational plan for firefighters to follow, no exceptions. That's another point, is initial information, knowing the type of construction, whether charged hose lines are in readiness, and the floor load. Certain homeowners might decide to install a 135-gallon aquarium, and you have to think about the water weight, and if you had a 54-inch widescreen TV and a sectional sofa and press board laminate wall unit and various end tables and lands over a ceramic tile floor, how much weight do you think that is? And he estimates about 1.5 tons. So firefighters have to consider all those factors. There's a fire going on and they have to think about all these things. Something additional to think about with engineered lumber is when it gets wet. Similarly, when you buy cabinets in your kitchen made of particle board gets wet, it disintegrates over time. Solid wood isn't going to do that. Lost track of my slides, didn't I? Well, I've got a lot of good links in the slides if you want to follow up for additional information. A lot of the articles that I had read, I've got included in my slides. Solar panels. Now, there are a lot of good things about solar panels. Where there's a lot of sunshine, they make a lot of sense. They're clean. Something additionally to think about with them is that they also necessitate new procedures for firefighters. In daylight, the solar panels are generating power and cannot be shut off. They're hazardous to firefighters. And I read a lot of articles about all the new procedures that firefighters have to go through to learn how to put out a fire on any kind of building with solar panels on it. A lot of all new education they have to be aware of. In conclusion, I'm just raising this information that I've learned to share with you. Be aware, research your cars before you buy them, research appliances before you buy them, and building materials, be aware of. A lot of newer homes and buildings have sprinkler systems put in to compensate for the engineered lumber. Just be aware as much as possible before you buy new. Take care of what you have. And are there any questions? Yes.
Are you familiar with Lewis?
Hold on, please, sir. We could get a mic to you, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Are you familiar with Louis Grossman from New York, who has a right to repair movement with Apple computers, and John Deere also? There's a big movement with farmers who use John Deere equipment. They can't repair their own equipment. They have to bring it to John Deere to have it repaired. These big combines are all computer controlled, And there's really no reason why you can't replace computer modules. But like Apple's new phone, they have a little module for like a little camera. And you can't take that little camera out of the new Apple iPhone and put it in another iPhone. It will not work because everything is deliberately, and there's no security reason for it. And I just thought you might have been a little bit familiar with.
That's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up.
So something, so there's a whole right to repair movement that's afoot because of all these things.
Good, good,
Yes.
cool. Thank you.
Other questions? Right here.
Hi, I'm Jim. Good to see you again, Karen. More a comment than a question, but the question form is, has your research revealed to you any instances where firefighting science is trying to develop alternate suppressants for lithium battery fires? Why I ask is, when I was in the Air Force, the airplanes I worked on, mind you, this was back in the 60s, had carried lithium ion batteries. And for that and the kind of fuel that they use, if one ever goes down, if the military fire service can get to it, they have a special kind of foam that basically, more than anything, deprives the fire of the oxygen it needs to burn. I just wondered if you know if anything's been in the research works about that.
I have heard and read about using foam to put out the battery fires. I know that's the superior, but a lot of the articles I read were still talking about water, and I guess it's a matter of time, I'm sure.
Here's another question.
Thank you.
More of a comment than a question. As a firefighter for over 20 years, I still have a family friend that is a firefighter. And I had one that was killed because of a fall through of a floor. But one of the big things about what you're saying tonight is new is not always better.
Thank you.
So Karen, when that appliance comes up that's broken, what are you kind of saying? No guts, no glory. You should just try to just kind of go for it. Is that what you recommend? I mean,
there are places you can go and buy older appliances. I mean, it's all a matter. It's personal choice, and if you want the newer thing, it's great. I mean, they're nice, and newer things are nice, and I get it. But I'm just saying, if you already have something and there's something wrong with it, consider getting it fixed. Consider it. I mean,
and your slides that have the links and stuff, we can put that up on the website for everybody.
Sure.
Okay, those will be up tomorrow. Any other questions for our speaker tonight? Any other questions? Let's thank Karen. Thank you very much. Karen, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your time you put into that. And we had our first winner tonight who won the grant book. I forgot to give her the most important part of the prize, a box of. I recommend you make that part of your Thanksgiving celebration. So it's a time of the year. I'm very thankful about a lot of things. I want to thank you all for participating in Empower You. Like I said, Thursday night, Betty and I would love to see you at Third Eye Brewing for a little beer tasting to celebrate, but we hope you have a great Thanksgiving and holiday season with your families. And I wanted to let someone online know who won the Woke Inc. book, and that is Arlene L. So Arlene, congratulations to you. You'll be getting your copy of the book. And everyone have a great night. Thanks for coming to Empower You. Thank you.